Hey cinephiles. While Spider-Man No Way Home continues to break box office records and be blamed for the Omicron surge on SNL,
there's one simple thing you can do to make this whole virus go away. Stop seeing Spider-Man.
Sony and Marvel have continued their fruitful collaboration for the film's Oscar campaign. But can a blockbuster mega hit like No Way Home possibly win over the Academy, who in recent years primarily recognize undeniably smaller and arguably more artful films, perhaps to their own detriment? Or, after saving theaters in 2021, could Spider-Man No Way Home keep the sinking Oscars afloat?
With the multiverse, anything could happen.
I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it. I'm on it.
On December 13th, 2021, Spider-Man No Way Home had its world premiere in Los Angeles, where the fans were ecstatic and the stars were elated. Little did they know, they would soon have reason to do backflips down the red carpet. Days later, No Way Home would release to the second biggest opening weekend box office of all time, which would have been an amazing feat in any year, but during this persistent pandemic, it was nigh unthinkable. Just over a week later, it would become the first movie during the COVID era to pass $1 billion at the box office. And before the year was over, it had already become Sony's biggest film of all time. As of the making of this video, No Way Home has already become the fourth biggest domestic box office release of all time and the sixth worldwide. And all of that is without opening in China, the world's largest theatrical market. Not only is Spider-Man No Way Home making Scrooge McDuck amounts of money, the film is a hit with critics and audiences alike, receiving a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes and a 98% audience score. It was the highest rated film of 2021 on Letterboxd, logged by over 600,000 members, where it holds a 4.2 average with a 36% 5-star rating. Over on IMDb, the film holds an 8.7 rating, where it easily cracked the top 250, currently sitting at number 22, just above the likes of City of God and It's a Wonderful Life.
Wait a minute here.
You a hypnotist? Well, then why am I seeing all these strange things?
In the midst of its unparalleled success, the Spider-Man No Way Home team essentially kicked off the film's Oscar campaign, including a push for Best Picture. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, star Tom Holland, president of Marvel Studios Kevin Feige, chair of Sony Pictures Tom Rothman, and producer Amy Pascal each made their case for why No Way Home deserves to be in consideration. In the piece, the tired Martin Scorsese versus superhero film debate was rehashed, and Holland conveyed the crux of his position, stating, "I've made Marvel movies, and I've also made movies that have been in the conversation in the world of the Oscars. And the only difference, really, is one is much more expensive than the other. But the way I break down the character, the way the director etches out the arc of the story and characters, it's all the same, just done on a different scale. So I do think they're real art." Pascal added, "Just because they're a certain kind of genre doesn't mean they're not quality movies. We all got in this business to make movies that people want to see, that make people feel things, and I think this movie legitimately does that." Of course, we should take these statements as the PR that they are, from the people who made the film and are now trying to get the ball rolling for awards season. While this is all part of the predictable and predictably tiring Oscar machine, I do think they highlight important points in the discourse of whether blockbuster movies, and superhero films in particular, should be given more serious consideration in the awards circuit. To get a full picture on superhero films vying for the top Oscar, we should look back 13 years ago, to January 22nd, 2009, when the Best Picture nominees were announced for the 81st Academy Awards.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Frost Nixon, Milk, The Reader, and Slumdog Millionaire.
The Academy failed to nominate Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, which was not only a critical and commercial success, it being the top-grossing film of 2008, to this day it is widely considered to be the greatest superhero film ever made. This snub was rightfully condemned at the time, and with each passing year has become a glaring omission and yet another instance of when the Oscars got it oh so wrong. Who can argue that any of these films are more celebrated then or now, or have had anywhere near the lasting impact as The Dark Knight? Wolverine himself, Hugh Jackman, acknowledged the oversight during his memorable opening musical number as host of the 2009 Oscars.
How come comic book movies never get nominated? How can $1 billion be unsophisticated? Everyone went to see The Dark Knight. What am I doing you think is not right?
But a far more significant moment came a few months later, on June 24th, 2009, when Academy President Sid Ganis announced that starting next year, the Oscars would be expanding the Best Picture nominee pool from 5 films to 10, stating that the Academy would be returning to some of its earlier roots. Beginning in the 1930s, the norm was 10 nominees for Best Picture, up until the Academy enacted a limit of 5 films in 1944, a practice that had endured for over 60 years. Ganis said, "Having 10 Best Picture nominees is going to allow Academy voters to recognize and include some of the fantastic movies that often show up in the other Oscar categories, but have been squeezed out of the race for the top prize." Translation? Yeah, we effed up. The Dark Knight should have been nominated.
How come comic book movies never get nominated?
A quick side note, 2 years later, the Oscars revised the Best Picture voting yet again so that the number of nominees could be anywhere from 5 to 10. As a result, we've seen 8 to 9 nominees over the last decade. But as part of the Oscars' recent inclusion and diversity initiatives, they will once again be guaranteeing 10 nominees starting with this year's awards. In the 13 years since the Best Picture category was expanded, only 2 superhero/comic book films have managed to earn a Best Picture nomination. And no, I'm not counting Birdman. In 2019, Black Panther was nominated, and you may recall who won the biggest award that night.
Oh, and the Oscar goes to Green Book.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The following year, Joker was nominated, before Parasite's historical win.
And the Oscar goes to Parasite.
Of the dozens of superhero films released over the last decade, the fact that these 2 films were voted by the Academy as Best Picture nominees is not difficult to comprehend. While both films had huge success at the box office, like The Dark Knight, they are both artistic achievements that had significant cultural influence. Alas, The Dark Knight walked, so these films could run. So perhaps the question of whether Spider-Man No Way Home should or will be nominated for Best Picture becomes a question of whether it carries similar weight to Black Panther and Joker for the Academy, particularly in the formidable field of eligible films from 2021. After all, it's the voting members who will have the final say. Unlike the now 22 other categories that make up the Academy Awards, Best Picture nominees are voted on by every member of the Academy, of which there are now around 10,000 strong. Directors, actors, producers, composers, cinematographers, and craftsmen of every stripe. Is a commercial film like Spider-Man No Way Home something that this collective body would actually recognize? Tom Rothman raised this point with The Hollywood Reporter. "I think it's fabulous that art films are now recognized at the Oscars to the degree that they are, but not to the exclusion of quality commercial cinema. We have to overcome, weirdly, the prejudice against the fact that it's a big hit. There's no denying that Spider-Man No Way Home is a big hit and has amassed cultural cachet, but its artistic value is up for debate. Another aspect that might serve No Way Home well is its sense of legacy.
Hello, Peter.
By opening the doors to Sony's 2 previous Spider-Man series, it capitalizes on nostalgia to emotional and exciting effect. Perhaps voters will see it as a way to acknowledge the ambition of the franchise and honor previous films. This seemed to be the rationale that led The Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King to win Best Picture in 2004.
Honoured, touched and relieved that the Academy and the members of the Academy that have supported us have seen past the trolls and the wizards and the hobbits and are recognising fantasy this year.
In hindsight, it's all the more remarkable that a high fantasy film actually managed to claim the top prize at all, but the Lord of the Rings trilogy was truly remarkable. On the other side of the coin is a film like Avengers Endgame, which I felt deserved to be nominated. It marked the end of an era, the epic culmination of 22 films spanning over a decade. If that couldn't even get a Best Picture nod, what are the chances for No Way Home? Perhaps Endgame was shut out because another superhero film, or supervillain in this case, stole its thunder, and the voters only had room in their heart for one. If it's a matter of picking the most significant superhero film, maybe they'll shine a light on something like Shang-Chi and The Legend of the Ten Rings. There's also a strong possibility that if they're going to recognize any blockbuster this year, it's going to be the other event film starring Zendaya. And no, I'm not talking about Space Jam: A New Legacy. I'm talking about Denis Villeneuve's Dune. As a serious fantasy epic adapting a classic book from an Oscar-nominated director, it certainly shares more DNA with The Lord of the Rings than anything in the MCU. When all is considered, the biggest selling point for Spider-Man No Way Home might actually be its selling point. Because while the Oscars is an awards ceremony, it's also a live television show, and the oxygen for event TV are ratings. So let's take a look at the graph for Oscar viewership over the last 40 years. The noticeable peaks are in 1983 and 1998. I don't think it's a coincidence that E.T. and Titanic, the top grossing films of their respective years, and two of the top grossing films of all time, were among the Best Picture nominees those years. The last time the single highest grossing film of the year was nominated for Best Picture was back in 2010 with Avatar, while Argo was the last Best Picture winner in 2013 to gross over $100 million at the box office. Since 2014, the ratings have been on a downward trajectory, hitting rock bottom at last year's ceremony. There were many factors at play, COVID chief among them, but it certainly didn't help that there wasn't a single blockbuster among the Best Picture nominees. Variety dubbed them the Invisible Oscars, as not a single one reached 50% audience awareness in a survey. For more on that, check out my video on why the 2021 Oscars failed. Zooming out, the point here is that the data shows a correlation between the popularity of the Best Picture nominees and Oscar viewership. Let's face it, the Oscars need Spider-Man No Way Home a lot more than No Way Home needs an Oscar. This creates quite the predicament for the Academy who, in theory, are supposed to vote based on meritocracy, not popularity. The Academy tried to have their cake and eat it too by introducing a popular film category ahead of the 2019 Oscars. The backlash was immediate and immense, and they axed the idea less than a month later. As the ongoing success of the Oscars should matter to anyone who has ever been nominated for or managed to win one, might members of the Academy vote pragmatically and use Spider-Man No Way Home to boost interest in the ceremony itself? Rothman dismissed the idea of nominating No Way Home so that it might increase viewership, saying, "I don't give a darn about the ratings on the Academy show, and I don't think that's what it should be about. I don't think anybody should vote for this movie because they think it would help the ratings. I think they should vote for this movie because it's one of the 10 best films of the year." Personally, I genuinely enjoyed Spider-Man No Way Home, and seeing it in a packed theater was one of my movie-going highlights of 2021. That said, I don't think it's one of the 10 best films of the year, and I'm not alone. I conducted a poll over on the Cineflick community tab asking, should Spider-Man No Way Home be nominated for Best Picture? 20% voted yes, 60% voted no.
I'm sorry, kid.
Yeah, me too.
And 20% voted, I don't care about the Oscars. Whether you or I care about the Oscars or not, when have any of us ever agreed with all of the Best Picture nominees? Year in and year out, there are films that I don't think deserve to be nominated, taking the place of many films that I feel do. That's one of the reasons I have an annual tradition of curating an Oscar snubs video tribute. Look, we're all used to the Oscars getting things wrong, which in and of itself is an endlessly debatable matter of personal preference, so much that I for one wouldn't really mind if Spider-Man No Way Home was nominated. I genuinely feel it's a better film than the likes of The Trial of the Chicago 7, Bohemian Rhapsody, and Hidden Figures, to name a few, and it's much better than a certain film somehow getting Oscar buzz this season. Suddenly, Best Picture nominee Spider-Man No Way Home doesn't really sound so bad. And while the possibility of No Way Home's Best Picture nomination is the focus of this video, it is part of Oscar's past, present, and future. It considers the blockbuster films of tomorrow and the fate of the Academy Awards, and whether those two are diametrically opposed, or perhaps, at the end of the day, after saving citizens across their cities, if superheroes could also save the Oscars.
I can't save everyone.
Back in 2009, after The Dark Knight was erroneously shut out of the Best Picture race, Academy President Sid Ganis called the Oscars,
"It's the biggest movie event of the year."
That claim was categorically false. The Dark Knight was the biggest movie event of the year, and the biggest movie event of 2021 was, undeniably, Spider-Man No Way Home. It seems strange for that to not be better reflected in what is supposed to be a celebration of that year in movies. I think the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences fails to fully recognize films like Spider-Man No Way Home, films like Avengers Endgame, and films like The Dark Knight at their own peril.
Comic book movies never get nominated.
What are your thoughts on superhero films on the Oscars? Do you think Spider-Man No Way Home should be nominated for Best Picture? And what are your feelings on the future of the Academy Awards? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you down there. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Cineflick for video essays, film lists, and more.
I got this!
And click that bell next to the subscribe button if you'd like to be notified anytime I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. For Cineflick, I'm JS Lewis. Until next time, watch something good.
Stripper bun, sip, 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 sip the bong, hit, hit,